Make it arbitrarily more fun for yourself, you being ad hoc with a random weapon. It's certainly, like, and it's reasonably true in vanilla at this point, but, like, because most of my starting weapon changes were implemented, but yeah, that is one thing I pay attention to with balance mod stuff, is to try to make it so that the random weapons do make sense enough for the character. There's still usually, like, one or two clear favorites that are gonna be better than most of the other ones, like, say, Pruner on Farmers, another big one for sure. But we were able to remove most of the stuff that was, like, really miserable and just, like, completely terrible as a start. Like, Screwdriver Fisher or something that just made no sense. It's like, let's scale up a bunch of damage percent that doesn't help the Screwdriver's landmines at all. Things like that. Wrench Engineer. Well, when you've only got like 2 or 3 starting weapons that are available at all, you're going to have access to your best one. I think that's probably fine. I mean, screwdrivers are a lot cheaper, which is an advantage, but yeah, it's not... Ridge is better, certainly. I still don't know how it is going to look in practice, but something I've done with a new balance mod here is Screwdriver. Because Pile of Books exists now, I thought it would be kind of interesting to make Screwdriver into a weapon that actually cares about crit more. So the crit damage goes up. So, like, Screwdriver into a Pile of Books and all your landmines are now critting sort of build could be potentially interesting. Yeah, the hammer start on Engineer is just cheeky bit of silliness mostly, because they have the guaranteed wrench that they start with, so they can still find more tools, but just like Blobfish likes conceptually tying hammer with engineering. It makes like a little sense now. It didn't really before, but now because hammer gives global knockback, that knockback is applied by your turrets. So there is some value in just having the hammer with an engineering build, which is kind of cute. This is for the Screwdriver only. Now the landmines themselves are going to have a 2 times crit damage multiplier always. So yeah, I still don't know exactly how Screwdriver lands here, but it's at least pushing it in a more interesting direction. It might still want more, but we'll see how that fares over time. I can't get everything perfect before updating it on the balance on the workshop again. Like, arguably I should have had something ready to update with the balance mod of the workshop like almost a month ago, but I wanna do too much. I want things to be high quality. I did post a current version of the balance mod on the Discord though, if anyone wants to try it out before we get it on the workshop there. I'd be especially interested in hearing anyone that tests the new druid or anything here. With only poison fruits giving you the extra luck, but getting a guaranteed 2 extra luck. But lots of good changes in here. But it's a lot of work to figure out what I still want to implement with balance mod, because like all of this stuff, and this is like intentionally condensed list was in balance mod before, but is now just part of the base game. So, or there's definitely some cases where stuff was buffed, but in a different way than I buffed it. So I have to figure out if I like Blob's approach enough, or if I want to still go with my version, or what, or somewhere in between. But yeah, for Druid, like, it felt like the poison fruit wasn't, like, it's a unique gimmick to Druid specifically, but it just isn't that interesting. It doesn't feel like it's really doing that much. So focusing the luck gain on the poison fruit turns it into a yet another kind of unique risk-reward thing that a lot of characters got kind of a unique risk-reward thing going on in their own way, like Fisher, for example, as how many baits you want to buy and stuff like that. But oh yeah, there's tons of stuff that is like, where do you draw the line on what's like better for balance versus personal preference, and there's a variety of different play styles that are gonna do better or worse with certain things, and like, I broadly consider luck fairly weak, but some people consider it decent, and like, I mean, I've done some decent analysis and testing of it, so I mostly stand by it being a little on the weak side. So doing things to buff it indirectly, I'm still a fan of. But the kind of new thing in 1.1 balance mod that is to that end is that tier 4 weapons are just cheaper across the board. So that if you luck into one because you've got high luck, then it is actually better than finding like a purple. Whereas like, it's too often in there's situations where you find a red weapon, but like, you would kind of wished it was a purple anyway, because you just have to sell off a purple to buy it, or things like that. So that is an indirect buff to luck and an indirect buff to mixed weapon builds. Preference mod would be a weird name for sure. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely stuff that's pretty clearly logical, balanced stuff in my mind. Like, Maso receiving these nerfs is still one of the strongest characters in the game. Like, just toning them down so they're a little less free makes a lot of sense. Like, same with Doctor. But there's certainly other stuff that's way more complicated, and there's also multiple aspects that you're looking to balance for, right? Like, we've been talking about picked weapon versus a random weapon and stuff, and trying to find spots there that make sense for both. Like Farmer isn't that weak with a pruner's start, so making them stronger with a pruner's start isn't that necessary, but starting with a garden makes them way more viable with any other weapon in the game, and they're pretty miserable otherwise. And going from what else did I accidentally change? Oh no, that wasn't accidental. That was the yeah, okay. Going from 6 gardens to 7 gardens is also not that drastic, so it doesn't buff them that much in a pruner's start. Is part of why I ended up liking the start with garden buff. And then there's a variety of things that aren't strictly balanced, but I'm trying to make the game more dynamic and more interesting, like the king change. Just trying to find ways to make it so your build decisions are more varied and interesting, and each character plays a little more uniquely, right? Like, with vanilla, you just kind of want to do the standard thing and just keep building out all the same type of weapons, mostly on king. Maybe if you find like a purple weapon in the shop, you might mix it up a little bit, but mostly do the standard thing. But now, I mean, like, and it makes thematic sense too. Like, if the king already has a fancy weapon of one type, do you think they're really going to be satisfied with another fancy weapon of the same type? No, they need a different fancy weapon. So that's and then like I still think they're like not like they're still like mid to good with this change, so like strength wise it's still in a good place. Reasonable Blue Bellicat, reasonable. Multitasker is not changed, like that's kind of a problem with stick existing. Like there's not a lot to do there unless you kind of cap stick at 6 or something, and that's also not gonna feel great. I still might tweak stick a little bit to make it it's scaling a little less drastic on having different variety of sticks, but yeah, that's mostly just gonna be stick existing, so it's kind of hard to do too much about that. Prevent it from starting with sticks. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that a bit earlier too. You could remove stick start from multitasker, pruner start from farmer, loot start from lucky. I think ultimately that's probably not necessary. Like, you can play a random weapon if you want a less reliable, more interesting start, and that's probably fine enough. So that is kind of the same sort of logic, Blue Milker, that like it just makes it more interesting. Like if you have the guaranteed starting weapon, you always have that fallback. Like Wildling starting with a stick just kind of means they usually just want to go stick instead of having your starting weapon matter. So having it mixed up makes your starting weapon actually matter more, and makes the runs more varied between runs of the same character. So, I mean, in short, no, I don't like the free starting weapon because I don't think it. I think it makes it less dynamic, less varied. I opted to keep the one for Brawler because it doesn't matter very much, and also it like means they start with two hands in the first wave, so that feels thematically appropriate and its little bit of silliness. But that one matters the least, so it's like, sure, whatever. But yeah, there's some stuff like sticks that I don't think are like the best design broadly, but whatever. Like, it's in the game. I don't hate it enough that we're gonna just like nuke sticks from the game entirely or anything like that, so when they are existing, I'll let people have their fun with stick multitasker and whatever. How many hands should a potato have? All the hands. All the hands. I still really liked the idea of the robot arm rework, giving an extra weapon slot. That was a fun change. I probably won't do that again since robot arm has now been reworked in the base game to actually be a unique item instead of just like a worse exoskeleton, or I think is what it was before, basically. An almost identical but worse exoskeleton. So I probably won't re-implement that, but I did have fun with that. That was cute. You could get a weapon on Bull, and it probably wasn't actually very good because now weapons are in your shop at that point, but you could do it. Gangsters shop prices, that it feels thematically appropriate enough to me, and like in my experience thus far the character isn't too hard with it. Like they seem like kind of mid-tier, and that's fine, but they're still new enough that I haven't had a chance to play them a whole lot. If I were to change something on Gangster right now, it would probably be to make it so that the elites don't do more damage based on how many elites you've killed. because that incentivizes not killing elites to some extent, and you want Gangster to have fun killing a bunch of elites. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, it's still completely fine to kill elites on Gangster and possibly even beneficial overall. Like, I'm still not sure exactly where I fall on that, but that would be the one thing I would maybe lean towards on Gangster currently. But like I said, I haven't played a huge amount of most of the new characters yet, so I could be mistaken, and they could justify less of a price increase, possibly. I know you're not the only one that dislikes Gangster in the current state or finds them kind of rough. Well, like, you want to think about these in the inverse, Blue Milker. This is going from, like, 10% knockback effect to 13% knockback effect. So knockback has 30% more impact on them. That said, I still don't, like, knockback's so nebulous in general that I'm not, like, super confident in this stuff. But based on what I've seen so far, knockback could use the small assistance. That's another one that's definitely nebulous enough that it's really hard to say. Like, if I really wanted to judge how I thought these changes should exist for sure, / how strong I think it is to buy in the game in general or whatever, I would have to do, like, explicit testing runs where it's like, all right, we're doing the same situation of a, like, kind of difficult wave that we have knockback versus not have knockback, but everything else is exactly the same, and we, like, run that back and forth, like, 5 times with each, and then we do it on a different wave with the same thing. We'd have to do that sort of thing to really judge. So I'm not going to say that these differences are perceptible because knockback in general is so hard to perceive for me, but it makes enough sense based on my experience that I'm opting for it, but I don't think it's a significant change or, like, a definitely correct change, but it just feels correct currently. That could be cute, Ad Hoc. I think that would be a little miserable on the style of risk reward, even though there's, like, a lot of stuff that kind of works in that vein, but I think that probably feels worse than making enemies do more damage or have more health or whatever. But you certainly could make an item in that vein. You can look at the wiki to reference the enemies a little bit, but yeah, these are the ones from the original map. So most of these don't appear. Like, only the Slasher and the Lampreys appear on the Abyss. But yeah, these are the ones that hatched from the egg. These are the, like, tall enemies that charge at you. Like, so this is the normal one. This is the one with the like armor. These are the small enemies that charge at you, the normal one and the one with the Viking helmet. Then there's some stuff like this. Like, I thought the original implementation that Blob had for this was actually pretty good. Like, that ended up making sense that it's like, okay, you've got to get close to the pufferfish to hit them with a melee, so making the projectiles less dangerous for melee makes sense, but the live implementation just makes them completely irrelevant. Like, the pufferfish do absolutely nothing in a pure melee build, and that's kind of dumb. Like, even the fly enemies that shoot out bullets when you hit them with ranged weapons, those are at least kind of fast and erratic moving, so you do still have to care about them somewhat with a melee build. But the pufferfish are slow and then shoot no projectiles, and that's not very interesting, so bringing that back so you still have safe angles to approach the puffers, but they aren't just a free enemy, makes it more interesting. But yeah, it's always an ever changing process, little set in stone, but that covers some of the logic for that sort of stuff. Like, there's a decent number of things that aren't strictly balanced, but I mean, that's the same with like the FTL balance mod, right? That there are a variety of things aimed at making the game experience more varied and like your decisions more challenging and interesting. So like, I guess another one in that vein is just kind of the broad strokes trying to make you care about range a bit more on your ranged weapons, things like that. Just trying to make it so that fewer cases have the like, oh, okay, well, this is always correct, I just ignore this all the time in this situation. Like, even if you turn that like 100% ignore into a 90% ignore, that's still a much more dynamic kind of experience that mixes up the game experience, gives you more room for skill expression as an experienced player and things like that, you know? Yeah, no, that's an important part of it too, Avery Plane. You do not want like perfect balance in a roguelike experience. It's you have different goals when balancing towards a roguelike than a like competitive multiplayer game, for example. If everything's like equally strong, then it's much less like interesting with your rolls and your shop choices and stuff like that. So I certainly have not balanced to make everything equally strong, but there's a lot of spots where like bringing in the edges more is good. Like, I try to avoid having things that are just always correct or always wrong, right? Say in the FTL, about like in FTL, in vanilla FTL, hacking is so strong that it's just always correct to buy hacking, and that's just less interesting, right? Like, you're not making a decision there. It's just, okay, this is the strong thing, always do the strong thing, right? So changing things like that, where it's like, okay, well, hacking's a lot more expensive, so it has a much bigger like investment cost, but it's still quite powerful. Like, that makes things more interesting. So like Fairy would be somewhat in that category too. Like, Fairy is nerfed a fair bit in balance mod and still like very good, and you usually want to buy it when it shows up, but it helps prevent stuff that just makes like the run free. But it's fine. Like, Fairy's still strong even with that relevant nerf, and I'm fine with that. But it just, yeah, makes it less like, okay, I've automatically won the game because I found this item or whatever, things like that, you know? But even in balance mod, I still very rarely buy a Little Frog, and I still almost always buy Fairy, but it evens out the edges a bit more, right? So if I bought, I don't know, Frog 3% before, now I might buy it like 9% or something like that, and it is still like not something I'm buying a lot, but it comes up more often that it's like, oh, I actually do want this in this circumstance or whatever. Greetings, Abamos. Welcome in. And even in those cases, like, I don't always succeed on them 100%. There's certainly still a few things in the FTL balance mod that are like always incorrect event choices and stuff like that, but that's like most broadly the goal as far as making decisions more interesting. And like, I really dislike things in a roguelike that are completely worthless. Like, I think this is a little less true in Modern Isaac. I have no idea what Modern Isaac looks like at this point, but when Isaac Rebirth like first came out, there were like some trinkets and stuff in the game that were purely part of this ARG thing and had no in-game benefit otherwise. So once the ARG thing was done, then they're just pure garbage filling the game with no value at all. And like that's not an interesting thing to exist in the game. Like it doesn't, like, why is it there, sort of thing, right? But yeah, in short, you're absolutely right that you don't want everything perfectly balanced. That is absolutely important to a roguelike design. Like, you do want situations that you get a little bit luckier and a struggling player can manage to win the run, and vice versa. You want things like you got a bit unlucky and things were not going your way and you still managed to pull out the win, and like that feels really good. Like you want those ups and downs a little bit, that variability. And like some of that will just happen naturally anyway, since playstyles differ quite a bit. So like the different elite strengths are gonna vary between different players and stuff like that, but yeah. In short, yeah, I've thought about this sort of stuff for at least a decade. But always, you know, welcome to hear feedback and questions on stuff like that. Like, ideally, I can defend my reasoning for most any change. There's a decent number of them that are pretty minor, so it's just like, well, that feels correct, but some of them are far more drastic. Like, yeah, it's like, this is a really small little preference thing. Like, I like, if you have all 3 spicy sauces, it should be guaranteed that you proc the explosion. Whereas at 33%, there's no fraction there. That means you have a 1% chance that you don't explode. And it's going to be really rare that that really matters, but if it was to matter and you really wanted that explosion, it would feel super bad if you hit that 1%. So I removed that little chance. Little things like that, like, you could say are just preference, but I think just help smooth out the experience and make things feel better, you know? Super funny. I mean, if it's streamed, maybe. Less funny to the average player that's not streaming, probably. I also try to keep with little thematic subtleties that Blob has in the game too. Like, shackles, the benefits of shackles are in the number 8, and handcuff benefits are in the number 8 because the number 8 looks like handcuffs and shackles. So I even lean into that more. The range is now 8-8 instead of 8-0. And if the players can actually see this price meaningfully, then I might make this 8-8 as well, but in practice, this is gonna be like 190, so it's like the price does not need to have clean numbers, so I worry about clean numbers a lot less on the price. Still ever taking Potas? Potas is definitely more viable now. Like, these changes do help. Although rerolls are now a little more expensive again, so that's a nerf to bone dice. But yeah, hopefully that you know, covers some of the grand concepts of how I approach balancing a roguelike and stuff. Oh, is there some terrible thing 8-8 is used for? Is it? How prevalent is that? Is that an argument for changing it? I mean, it is sticking with the theme well enough at 80, but terrible people ruin everything. Yeah, yeah. It will not appear with a 14, no. Yeah, that's what I thought, millibytes, but... That's what I only originally learned about processing donations for GDQs when you have to worry about lots of random things in donation messages and stuff. And one thing is that we wouldn't push donations with that being the donation amount, right? Man, the starting weapon list is so small now. Because literally 110 starting weapon changes I made in balance mod before just started the base game now, so... This only works if you change Crazy to care, for crossbow to care about the starting range. This is weird, so understandable not to add it. These are all weird, so understandable not to add it. These are kind of weird, so understandable not to add it. And we already talked about the engineer hammer thing. So, there's very few, I think, these two are, or these three are pretty logical, general ones that would make sense for the base game, but... I don't remember what TwitchBot last said that they think Adog's responding to now, but... Everything in a neat little package! Anyway, part of the reason we went on this tangent is that I was already kind of fading and feeling real tired, so I think we might just be calling it an early stream here. Yeah, that wasn't that's just I mean the last responding to chat thing TwitchBot did. That one was just a random promo thing. But any case, it was so much for you. That was, I think that's considered a command rather than part of TwitchBot's brain stuff, probably. But yeah, it's leaves us with a relatively short stream. But like I said, kind of already fading attention and energy wise. But hope you all enjoyed discussing game design in roguelikes, basically. But another good example I didn't bring up there is in FTL, there's both a Burst Laser 1 and Burst Laser 2. And Burst Laser 2 is almost strictly better than Burst Laser 1, but ultimately it's still okay for both of those weapons to exist in the game. Basically, Burst Laser 2 is more expensive, slightly slower, but shoots 3 projectiles instead of 2. But importantly, like, Burst Laser 2 doesn't mean you just auto-win entirely. And Burst Laser 1 is still, like, a useful weapon to actually use in the game. So it's fine for both of those to exist in the same ecosystem. Like, I still make Burst Laser 2 more expensive in the FTL balance mod, for example, but, like, I don't know, add another 3 seconds cooldown to Burst Laser 2 or anything like that. And yeah, so, like, that kind of ties into what we were saying, like, it's fine for stuff to be stronger than other stuff, and that's a fairly direct comparison of, like, yes, this is stronger than this. As long as the weaker thing still has utility and value in the game, and the stronger thing isn't, like, just completely trivializing the whole experience. Like, there's also arguments to allowing some amount of trivialization. My main argument there is that a single item should never trivialize the experience. It's potentially fine if multiple do, though. The de facto degen Slay the Spire Ironclad combo that I can't even remember right now because I'm so far removed from Slay the Spire, but that's like an example that requires more than one thing. Like, I think Isaac's stuff that only has a single OP item is pretty bad, but if you, like, get 3 items together that are OP and make the run pretty free, that's fine and can be fun to pull off. Like, that's kind of the broad Corruption Dead Branch. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yep. Exactly. But, like, it can be fun to have degen things happen. It should just be not something that's super easy to pull together all the time. So, just a final little in cap on the roguelike game design discussion there, I think. But cool. Consider following if you're new and you enjoy tangents about game design and analytical gameplay and stuff like that. But thanks for tuning in.